Okay, recording.
Okay, great. So Patty, I don't know if you want to take it. I sent out an email to everybody that was registered for this training with the link to instructions to tell you how to download the actual 2016-17 training materials. So hopefully you are able to do that. And so I'm going to pass it over to Patty.
Okay, great. And if you don't know who I am, because I know some of you, but I'm a program specialist at CASAS, and I focus mainly on California, but I've been stretching my legs a bit. So let me tell you about this training. I've given it a zillion times, and I've kept notes of issues I've had with it. So I was just told, well, then change it rather than complain. So I went back to the source. I went back to the test administration manual. And really, if you follow along with the test administration manual, it just follows right along the presentation and everything. Because I found in the field that many agencies didn't realize that there was a test administration manual. A lot of agencies had no idea that there was a screening tool for ESL. So just decided to go way back and take it right to the people who are brand new. And so I hope you like it. Let me see. So let's start with the presentation itself. We designed it so that you can make whatever changes you need. If there's a section that you don't, let me find it. I can't talk and click at the same time. If there's a section that doesn't apply to the group that you're presenting to, just go on. You can go ahead and just skip it and go on to the next section. And I'm trying to see view, view, zoom, and what technical difficulties. Oh, that's better. What? Nope, not. Sure, don't click for me the first time. There we go. So again, trying to relate to the people that you're training and to you that you're the vital point, that this is important for our company to make sure that the information gets out correctly, and wanted to show you just some data. Some data that proves that what you do pays off for the students, the company, and everything else. So we've got notes below all of the slides, and it starts off very familiar. Again, you're not going to, well, you're not going to see a whole lot of changes, but what I did take out was a lot of the testing to instruction, because so many of the people that attend these trainings for testing aren't teachers. So we put that in another training. We addressed that in a bunch of other ways in trainings. So narrowed that down a bit, and then focused more on the actual testing. So we've gotten rid of the let's take the appraisal test, everybody take the appraisal test, and now it's a role play on administering the test, because we don't really care if the trainers can take the test. We want to see, I'm trying to skip to, there it goes. We're trying to see if they can administer the test. So we go into gory detail in this first section of the two different tests. We did color code the slides so that we've got information about e-testing, information about paper pencil testing, and then what applies to both. So that should make it easier. Now, again, we go into the appraisal, and then we talk about the oral and writing screening that's available. And again, so many people don't even know this exists, but we talk about who do you give it to, what happens when you give it to them, and then a practice. Now, these practices that the activities that I've put in are no longer the fill in the blank, do it yourself. It's role play. And the response that we've gotten from this has been great. And it's kind of hard to rope them back in because they want to keep giving the test. These are all the activities. I put screenshots in the PowerPoint. That's why the PowerPoint is so long, because you've got the duplication of all of the activities in the PowerPoint, so you don't have to hold up the activity packet. Going over the rubrics, and then the writing screening. And again, if you're training an agency that does not have ESL students, then you just skip this. You skip the whole section. Any questions so far? Am I going in too much detail? We go over general testing guidelines for going through the appraisal, and the reason why I'm spending so much time on the appraisal is that once they do the role play of administering it, they'll see that when we get to the pre-test, it's the same process. And then by the time we get to the post-test, we actually don't have them do a role play. We ask them for feedback on what they need to be doing. And so they've learned it by then. And that they see that every testing instance, regardless of it being an appraisal or a pre or a post test, are all the same. Administering the appraisal, and again, the computer-based versus the paper-based, and then what applies to all in the blue. Did have an interesting question at Summer Institute. Somebody came up to me and said that an agency said that as long as a test proctor is on campus, then anybody can administer the test. Go ahead and do your spit take with your coffee right now. So please remind them that, no, it has to be somebody that's trained, that's actually in the room with the students. I always love the questions I get at Summer Institute. Again, the participants are going to see very quickly that e-testing is much easier to manage, especially when they get to after a test and they have to do all the work with the booklets and all of that. And just like we've done in all of the trainings, it's taking the test results and identifying the skill level, measuring learning gains by post-testing, and how to target instruction. Again, really cut down from what it was. Now, the decision was made to use the Form 80 appraisal that's no longer used in agencies for the training, so that test security is better. Marty, did you want to address that at all?
Can you?
Oh, sorry, I just sent it a spot.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Also, I just sent a question. I don't know if anybody can see that.
Oh, hold on. I can if I enlarge it here.
Sorry, Marty, my GoToMeeting isn't cooperating, so I can't see the chat.
Okay, no,
Okay,
I
so
was,
would you
sorry.
explain the difference between the locator and the long cat?
Yeah, can you go
yeah.
back to that slide and explain that to everyone, please? Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
So, So the locator is what, about 5, 6, 7 questions that a student gets in e-testing when they first log on, when they're first testing. Some agencies find that it's not as accurate as they would like. So you do have the option of doing the long CAT, which is more like 15, 20 questions. So obviously it's going to be a little bit more accurate, but most agencies, we don't have a problem with the locator. But the long CAT does take more time.
And Patty, is it the locator or the long CAT that gives you the option of going directly to a pretest?
They both do.
Okay.
It can just lead you right in. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I do have to think that, no, it's all good. It reminds me that one of the main things I've thought about with this training is that this question of we don't want to waste people's time. And by that I mean like new students coming to an agency. A lot of feedback I get is that agencies don't want to do an appraisal. They just want to give them a pretest and get them in there and get them out of there. And because we don't want to waste their time, we just want to get them in class. But we know that that really works against you. So I'm really hoping that when you give this training, you keep that in mind and make sure that you're not in a rush to give the training, and assure the attendees that taking the time means that you're going to have more accurate results, and it's better off for everybody. If the students are planning on investing their time and going to your agency for classes, go ahead and invest the time to place them correctly and calmly. And I'm sure you've seen the same thing with agencies, that people just want to get them in and get them into class. Let's see. Is the appraisal used as the example that's going to apply to pretest results as well? I found it difficult to explain both appraisal scoring and pretest scoring to trainees simultaneously. Yes, I hope so. And some feedback on this after you administer it would be great. But I do go into detail about, can't find my cursor, about the test results, and then letting them see that the appraisal has its own scale score chart, and then the pretests all have their own scale score chart. So does that help with the question a bit?
Yes,
and
thank you. Thank you.
Sure, and I think that's keeping the appraisal very separate from the pretest. I felt that in the original training it was really rushed together.
Yeah.
And it did get confusing. So all of the questions that I've added in activities, and no, I don't have the activities numbered because as soon as I number them, everything changes. But the idea that you can pick and choose what applies to your agency. Ideally, you'll give them all, but you certainly don't need to if you feel that they don't apply. And then the questions have all been changed from very obvious. I want to say that everybody is familiar with the Webb's depth of knowledge rating. So just seeing a name on a form and then the question is, what is the name? And you write the name is a level 1. And frankly, I found most of the questions in the activities level 1 questions. So I've moved these up to level 3, which takes more critical thinking skills. And there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer in a lot of these questions, which makes for great conversation in the training room. So obviously this is more of a black and white one. We get on to the progress test with the level descriptors, and then giving them an idea, and don't think that you have to go over these particular slides in detail. The students will have their level descriptors with them, but it just gives them an idea of what tests are covered in level A, and then what range they hit. So these are just for quick clicking, just giving the students seeing what they need to see. And they are all color-coded with the tests themselves. A lot of time on the test administration manuals, and then again, key points for testing, whether it's computer-delivered test or paper-based. This information is all the same. I do want to say that we've been hearing problems with cell phones and students taking photos of the tests. You'll need to come up with a strategy for that at your agency, but whether you take the cell phone and delete the photo, or you stand there while the student deletes the photo, and then perhaps asking them to leave. It's been a little problem. Here's the role play for pre-testing. So we've got all of the materials. For the participants to use. And again, one teacher, one or more students for the role play, and you really do have them go through the script that's in the test administration manual, and it's all included there. And then going over scores. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me say, so in this activity, it's been a couple of weeks in Summer Institute. I'm a little fuzzy. In this activity, what I did was hand out answer sheets to the students. They've got their test booklets based on their appraisal results, and then as they're doing the role play, I went around the room and just marked a raw score on their answer sheets. So they only had to answer a couple of questions just to get the idea of how to administer and listen to the little script. But just assigning a raw score. If you've got a large group like we had at Summer Institute, I told the trainers to go ahead and just ask generally, think of a number between 1 and 30, and then have the students, the quote-unquote students, write that number on their answer sheet for their raw score. And then from that raw score, of course, they get their scale score. And then there's some explanation as to what these scale scores mean, that a 183, no matter what test form they take, is still a 183 and is still that descriptor. So whether they've taken an 81 or an 83 and gotten that score of 183, it still means the same thing.
Patty, that's a really nice chart. My compliment.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting better at moving stuff so that it lines up. So again, all of that. We've added in this one little chart about the NRS levels and WIOA because, wait, no, this isn't the one I'm thinking of. Sorry, that's good. There it is. The term that we're going to start hearing as WIOA goes on is this not basic skills sufficient and not basic skills sufficient. So this chart tells you exactly from their test score where they lie. And this is working with the the Title I agencies. And if they question whether a student is basic skills sufficient or not basic skills sufficient when they're working with you. All right, instruction. Again, using the reports, and I've whittled down, I think, how many reports I covered before. And it's all the pretty much the same report, just created in a variety of ways with options. Okay, and then post-testing. So what do they need first? They need their next assigned test report. We need to release preparation guidelines. Making sure that they have a schedule at their agency for post-testing. They're not just turning around going, we'll do it this week. And this is, instead of the role play that we did with the appraisal and the role play we did with the pretest, now just asking, what are your next steps? And just having a general discussion in the room. And just making sure that it really is a check for understanding at this point. And again, the comparison between the e-testing and paper-based testing. On the case study, I kept the information about the case study about the same. You know, the idea of following one student through all of the intake, and then just following Ricky, but I got rid of all of the charts that went along with it because they can use the charts that are in their training packet. I made sure that they all matched, and Ricky is hidden in there with whoever we're using during the training. So again, a little bit more open. The students don't, let me get to the one with the answer key. So talking about demographic detail with the students, which we haven't done before, what might you keep in mind looking at Ricky's appraisal results and his demographic information? And they start seeing where all of this comes together and can make a difference in the classroom. Certainly the students don't need to fill in all of this information and asking if they see anything else on the reports. And then adding in things that really happen. I keep on getting this question. What if Ricky said that the test was too hard? But he's already taken the one before it, so he needs to take that one. And so, again, you just tell the student, as you well know, go ahead and do your best. It's not a pass-fail test. It's just to see where you've grown. So if you can only get halfway through it, that's just fine.
Mm-hmm. Patty, do you mind we interrupt right there with a question?
Yeah.
So if you go a slide, scroll up a bit, it says, what post-test would you give Ricky? See chart on slide, and probably slide 81, right?
Yep.
Okay. And
sorry about that.
Yeah. Now my question on that is, so the next assigned chart, the next test chart, you're using only the electronic version. So if you're doing paper pencil testing and you need to go to the chart that's in the TAM, we would need to include that on our own training. Is that right?
Ah. All right. Wait, making a note. Making a note. Okay. So for agencies with no TE, use TAM to determine, and this is the case study. Okay, what I'll probably do is make like an addendum for agencies with no TE, and I can include that in there.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Okay, and thank you for bringing that up because, of course, that doesn't even occur to me. Excellent point. And again, kind of open-ended questions for that one. And then I do have his appraisal here that they can look at with the oral screening and writing and his raw score. Okay. And at the end of the presentation, after the case study, so now we ask them, now what? Because that was the question that I would get after I'd give the training. Well, that's all well and good, but now what do I do? Well, they've got to assign testers, they've got to set up a calendar, they've got to order materials. So just a review of everything that we've covered, suggested trainings that they can take online if they like, and I think my guy dances when he's in the, there he goes. Very proud of myself for that. That high-tech stuff. But oh, there needs to be some levity in the training too. I do have an outline of the list of activities, just for an overview for the trainers. And from there you can decide what ones you're going to use or not. I have the activity packet. And again, a lot of these are very familiar. And then using the oral screening and then the writing screening. Oh, good grief. Something happens when it either gets uploaded. We'll try this one again because I've fixed this a couple of times, and I think when it gets uploaded to the website, something goes a little screwy. But we got some great discussion out of this activity with the participants. Some agencies said that the student would only get, it's a rubric from 0 to 3, or 0 to 2, and that the student would only get a 1 because there's no capital letters or there's no period. Other agencies would give the students a full 2 because they got all the words right. And so it brings up the idea that the agency needs to create what their rubric scores are going to be, or mean, on that. Oh, good grief. I thought I was going to get away with no dogs barking. But a great conversation. And again, the script's right out of the TAMs. And then the reports that they'll need. And I will add that other, the non-TE people. Any questions at all about anything?
I have a couple of comments and maybe a couple questions.
Sure.
The first one is I'm so glad that you have separated the appraisal from the pretest in a couple of ways that we've had to do on our own in Colorado. By the activity where we used to have them look at the score on the appraisal and then say, well, what would this student be able to do job-wise? So you've moved that from the result of appraisal to the pretest, which is much more appropriate.
Right.
So thank you for doing that. And I think it's great also to have the those two slides, 67 and 68, showing the score across the, you know, the, you can pull it up and you'll see which one I mean. 60, yeah, those are great, as Nadine said, because we've been trying to do that without that graphic, and that's very nice, very appropriate.
I like pictures.
Yeah, it's very helpful, I think. So if you're, in your experience, you're doing 91 slides, let's suppose you do have ESL mixed with ABE test administrators, are you getting through the 91 slides in 3 hours? Are you?
Yes. Yeah, and again, because a lot of these are just just a visual,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not going to spend a lot of time on this. They can see just with a quick click, they can see, oh, I get it, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then,
right.
what was my other? Oh, and then all of the activities are included in these slides. So again, so you don't have to pull up the activity booklet. It's all included. So that's why there's more. And I was actually reading, trying to update my skills a little bit about new research in these PowerPoints, and it's fine to have. She was saying that it's fine to have more if you're with the idea that they're just there to just show you.
Uh-huh.
The students all have this answer sheet in their slide, but in order to see it together and be able to put it on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. So, yeah, and you can certainly go through and just decide which ones you want to hide. But yes, we've tried it several times with several trainers, and yeah, we've all been able to get through it without feeling rushed, which is, I know, surprising.
Mm-hmm. Part of that might be because of the role play versus the actual taking of the test. It gives you some more time.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right, and while they still get the taste of it, they don't have to slog through all the questions.
Yes, and Patty, this is Nadine, and I think some of it is training style too. I mean, it might be nice to have this many slides as a prompt for, you know, what the trainer is going to say versus remembering information that you're going to present kind of as background to the slide. I'm curious to see how this is going to work for me if I use each slide almost like a note card, because in the past I've had fewer slides and I've talked about things that were not being presented. This looks like what I can say is tied in more directly to what the trainees are seeing on screen. Is that part of the reason it's 91? Because that does seem long.
Right. So again, instead of just having the activity, there's an entire slide for the activity, so all the participants can see it. And yeah, and again, there are somewhat duplicate slides,
okay,
and not ones that you have to read, but after the test, they have to do all these steps, and you'll see that again later. But then they just need to see. They don't need to read it, they just need to see it and see that it's the same.
all right, good, thank you.
Sure. Would love feedback after you guys administer this too.
Patty, this is Margaret Kirkpatrick. In previous years, we used to talk about significant gain. Do we not talk about that anymore?
No, we really don't. We do some other trainings where we talk about learner gains, but that significant gain and two-level gain, that stuff, yeah. We've gotten away, especially from the verbiage, because it tends to get everybody confused with any kind of payment points that they're doing. I think we've got a slide in there that through 25 years of research, students will make a 5-point gain at about 70 hours, a 3 to 5 point gain at 70 hours of instruction.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. And then I think that'll come in more when we start, well, in California we do a lot of online teacher training that you guys are more than welcome to attend. And then we get into the nitty-gritty with that.
I'm also have a question. The two different slides, slide 18 and then slide 61, assessment process. It's a new version and the old version. And I'm liking the 18 specifically for the purpose of the appraisal, identifies the pretest students should take. On the old slide, we didn't do this in Colorado, but on the CASAS slides, it's determine program level placement.
You know, and we've had, this is interesting, so Marty and Adriana take note, because we've had this question come up recently a few times about the purpose of the appraisal. So we'll be thinking about it a little bit.
Right. But for our understanding, purpose of appraisal is to determine the pretest.
Right, and there are some agencies that don't report testing outcomes to any federal agency. They're just looking for a quick and dirty way of placing their, seeing if their students are eligible for whatever program, typically vocational programs.
Right.
And so they'll just give the appraisal, which is fine. And I think that's what that is addressing.
And so in a way, whatever your decision is, could you omit 61 and keep 18? Only for the sake of shortening.
Sure.
I mean,
I don't think I'll go into the story of why I kept 61.
Sure. Yeah, that's okay. Okay.
I was kind of told to keep 61, but yes, yeah, sure. It's the same. It really is the same slide, other than that determining program.
Right. Then the other question is about content standards, and is there are you addressing Common Core standards and the work CASAS is doing with those that, I can't think of the word, alignment, you know?
Yeah, no, not in this training.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I do the content standards. I get rid of the flower, the little wagon with the wheels and everything else. But, you know, we do that activity where the student has a problem, and so this is the poor guy that's trying to get to work, and his car breaks down. So what does he do? I found a Yelp page, and believe it or not, I found a Rolling Hills adult Yelp page because all the students have their cell phones, and that's the first thing they would do is get on their cell phones to get help. But here it's got the example of the different tow truck or repair places, and then the content standards that fall under this. So locating information in organized in groups or categories, finding a word or a number or alphabetical order, and here it is, scanning simple text to find specific information. So again, the pictures help, the stars help, and the little map, using supporting illustrations to interpret text, and then using capitalization as a clue to interpret words. So I thought this was a great way to demonstrate content standards that finally at least made sense to me. So, but no, haven't done the Common Core. That all needs to come in a completely different training. But you're right, we haven't been addressing that in training.
Okay.
Really, this is I want you to think of this as a living document. We get some feedback from you, we can make changes. It's not necessarily set in stone. Again, we've had really good results in California. We had good results from Summer Institute, but more than willing to make whatever tweaks and changes that you find that you need.
Patty, to give you feedback, should we contact you or Adriana or somebody else?
Or both of us?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And just
if you send either one of us an email or both, it'll get to the right person.
Okay.
If it's more, content based, maybe Patty, but logistics, me. But either way would be fine.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Well, we still got some time left, so if anybody has any questions, otherwise, Adriana, I'm handing it back to you.
Yeah, you know, I think that we, you know, unless there are other questions, we've set up another webinar on the 20th, which is the same material that we'll probably have gone over today. So if you were here today, you don't have to come on the 20th. But we do have another webinar scheduled on August 24th with Linda Taylor, in which we will be going over the presentation that she gave at this year's Summer Institute at the Certified Trainer meeting. So that is the webinar that if you couldn't make it to Summer Institute, you definitely want to make it to that. Just a couple kind of logistical things. The National Consortium Certified Trainer meeting recording, the actual video recording that we took at Summer Institute will be up on the CASAS website next week. So I'll send out an email, you know, once that's done. So again, if you weren't able to make it to this year's Summer Institute and you want to, you know, see the meeting, we were able to tape almost everything except for the discussion groups. So you'll at least be able to see, you know, Pat Rickard's presentation and Linda and Jane and myself. But you won't be able to see kind of the discussions that went on outside of that. And I think, I mean, that's it for me. Patty, did you have anything else? Marty?
Nope.
Adriana, one question about the August 24th. If we're unable to attend that webinar, are you going to record it?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we'll record it and post it. And, you know, I know that there's a requirement that you attend the National Consortium Certified Trainer meeting. You know, if you can attend the webinar, that would be great, especially if you weren't able to go to Summer Institute. You know, if there are other issues, conflicting schedules, just let me know. We can work something out.
Right. I had sent an email about that to you, but didn't hear back, so, because I can't.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Hi, can anyone hear me?
We will be recording. Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, it's Pam. I wasn't sure you could hear me. I did post a question. Hi, everyone. I did post a question in the chat box. I really like your presentation, by the way. I love what you've done. I'm just wondering if the online training that is going to be modified to look a little bit like this that you've done, the online version.
I do not know.
Marty, do you know?
No, I don't, because I think somebody else is overseeing that whole project. So I'm not sure what direction that's going to go.
I mean, I would imagine, though, that especially if the feedback from these in-person trainings and the updated material is positive. So, you know, obviously, if you do get positive feedback, let us know. If there you know, people are really taking to it, please, you know, send us an email and let us know. Because I think that if, you know, the in-person change, you know, the changes to the in-person training get a lot of good feedback, I think it probably would drive some changes maybe to the online training as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just not sure what the status of that is right now.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
Thanks, Patty, for doing this. Thanks, Patty. And
Patty, thank you so much.
Have a webinar.
Oh, sure.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you, Adriana.